Welcome back. This is AYV on Sunday. Let's start by apologizing for having a late start today. But we're here and your favorite show on TV is back, and we will be bringing you undiluted analysis with regards our topic of discussion for today. Now remember, you can drop us your comments on WhatsApp. That's +232 88575742. If you're in country, is 088575742. Drop us your comments on Facebook as well. Drop us your comments there, and we would read through them. Don't forget today to use the hashtag AYV on Sunday as well, so that we'll build a community around AYV on Sunday. And we know that when you get online and you mention AYV on Sunday, you have attraction. And there's a hashtag leading you to shows, both past, present shows, and of course, shows we will do in the future. It's AYV on Sunday again, and my name is John Conte. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio this evening. I'd like to welcome Mr. Kalilu Tutangi. He is, of course, a very strong and popular voice when it comes to national issues, having been the chairman of NASID. He's also with us in the studio this evening. Kalilu, welcome to AYV on Sunday.
Thanks for having me.
I would also like to welcome lawyer Rashid Doumbouya. He is a known voice and a public advocate as well, who has added his voice to several social and national issues. Lawyer Rashid Doumbouya is the chairman for Legal Link. He was also a former commissioner for Human Rights Commission. Lawyer Rashid Doumbouya, welcome to AYV on Sunday.
So I'm grateful. Thanks for having me.
Now, don't forget to drop us your comments, as I mentioned, to the WhatsApp number. You can 088575742. If you're watching us or listening to us across the globe, do to +232 +232 to our viewers across the globe on DSTV channel 399, on Facebook, and of course on channel 33 and 34 watching us in country. You can drop us your comments. Now, we're starting off this way by introducing what we call the highlights of the week for the guests that will be coming to the studio. Commissioner Rashid, I would like to start off with you. Tell us your... it's been quite an eventful week, but I don't want to mention the highlights, but I would like to hear from you. What have been the highlights for you so far this week?
I think it would be better to start with the government man themselves.
No, it's deliberate. It's deliberate, Commissioner Rashid, to have you go first.
You have an eye on the government.
All right, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. As always, AYV, this is good. You create a platform for CSOs and government actors to have a space to hold critical conversations regarding governance, democracy, rule of law, respect for human rights. So that's a good one. And AYV on Sunday is a unique program indeed. And thanks, John, for holding the fort so far. Yes, I'm here. I'm happy to be here. I represent the civil society, and I head the organization called Legal Link. It's a legal-based organization that defends the rights of vulnerable groups in Sierra Leone. Yes, a few highlights. We are looking and we are studying. Quite recently, we heard about the purchase of some buses. I think Tag Waka Fine also, and the also measures that we are taking by the Ministry of Transport in terms of getting them their own unique, routes in the country in terms of transportation and traveling, and the implication that is also having in a few areas where these routes have been designated. So we are looking at that closely. We receive a lot of complaints regarding same. So perhaps in the not too distant future, we'll be reaching out to the relevant authorities on how we could deal with this issue, because in our preliminary findings, it is clear that many of those communities are currently being affected. And the idea of having the bus is good, and we all know the challenges in terms of transportation, no doubt. but when we bring them in our country, we also must understand that it's a free market system we are operating, and a democratic nation, so rights have to be respected. You don't also float policies that seems to, in a way, interfere with the enjoyment of rights. So we are looking at even the case of right to move, freedom of movement. That's what we are looking at the moment, because
what are you looking at when it comes to freedom of movement?
Yes, so if you design or float a policy or a regulation that tend to limit movement, it could either be by two vehicular, two pedestrian, you know, without necessarily having a situation where there is a need for an emergency, then it perhaps, you know, might be interplaying with fundamental human rights. And that's what we are looking at. So when we reach our conclusion on our opinion, and if it's clear that it doesn't meet the threshold, we'll have to make a public position on this, and even write perhaps to the minister. Because the fact is this: the routes that other vehicles are using now, there are a lot of inconveniences also that is putting on the border. I mean, on the public means of transportation, and fuel cost, and also increased costs for, you know, for passengers as well, because they will have to go through some more longer routes. So we are looking at all of these things and see how we can advise, because I believe perhaps it was done in good faith, but now the realities show that the burden is really on a few people that are living in these routes in terms of accessing transportation and even coming early to work. Because in some instances, the Wakafine buses will have been filled before they get to their place, you know, and then how will they now take transport to come? These are all the things we are looking at. So it's important that perhaps we try to expand our country. It's not really a bad idea to have streets designated for public transport, but then in a situation where we don't have much, and our country is quite tight, the city is tight in terms of space, we have to also understand this dynamic. So it's a key issue that we are studying, and perhaps one of the conclusions we're making is, if you want to really get people to rush in your means of transportation, the surest way to deal with it is to reduce the price. It's not really to design a route path. So
comparatively,
yes, when you reduce the price.
Comparatively, are you saying that it's in fact higher than what is prevailing at the moment?
Yeah.
With you know, from post to post with
yeah. So we are even studying on that as well. We are asking a lot of questions around the stations that are designed and also other means of transportation. But I'm saying if really the means of transportation should be the first priority, usually the surest way of attracting that influx of population is to reduce the price. That's the law of demand. You know, if the price is down, then you know what will happen. All right. So, but we are studying it, like I said. There are a lot of complaints coming out regarding movement, and we are looking at and see whether in fact it gets to the threshold. Then we have to make a position on that.
Is that the only highlight for you for this week?
Yeah, I think that captured a lot, and there was one issue. Of course, you know, the trials are still going on in terms of the treason trials and all of that. I mean, the number 26, you know, attempted failed coup. The trials are also going on, and we are following up on that as well. And of course, we also, of course, learned about the ECOWAS situation with former president. It's quite an old news now, but it's key. The effects are still here with us, and we're following that as well gradually to see what the dynamics are. But I think the Wakafine, you know, swallowed the entire movement.
The oxygen in the room.
All right, Kalilu, your turn. What has been your highlight for this week?
I'm not going to be as nuanced as my colleague here. The Wakafine, the rollout has been a complete mess. The intention of government and our partners, remember now, this was a grant that was given to us because everybody knows all of the congestion, and we need to move our people to work and back is more easily than it's been done already. So the government's idea of the IROM was a really great one, but the way it has been rolled out is quite messy because public education has been zero And the people didn't even know what the real price is, because I was telling my wife that I know the ticket was for a whole day. It's a 12-hour ticket because somebody posted that right ahead of even the agency, and we all took that and ran away with it, only for them to come back and tell us, no, it's just for just one use. It's 10 leos. No, it's not right. I don't think it is right, because this was a grant given to us to ease our people's movement in the city. And so it's not like somebody wants to make a head-to-head profit, as they would say in my neighborhood. This is something that is supposed to cushion the problem of transportation for our people. So whoever is in charge, I'll urge them to go back to the drawing board and educate the people about what this is and how it could be done. The issue of banning public transport on the route from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. is a no-brainer as far as we are concerned. Because if you are talking about, yes, the ambulance, for instance, should have preference, dedicated route. Yes, the public transport bus should have dedicated road, priority use, because it's a mass transit vehicle. But in a situation where we don't have as many rules or the capacity to accommodate that, we should have some understanding. Why don't you say, okay, between 6 and 9 a.m., when is the rush hour, we want you to dedicate those roads to the mass transit buses. From 4 to 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., which is also another rush hour, we want you to dedicate that road to mass transit. But to say blankets, nobody uses that road, I don't think they have anywhere in the books that gives them the right to do that. So I expect that citizens groups, lawyers groups should challenge. That's what is the beauty of democracy. Challenge that, let them explain where they got the right to do that.
But I think Rashid mentioned that they're looking at finding a way to talk about the
but the more they allow this thing to drag out, people are complaining, and nobody is coming out to say what is the real thing. It's not good for the health of our democracy. Government has the heart in the right place to ensure that we want to have these buses to cushion the effect of the transport crisis that our people are facing. But people who are rolling out have got it wrong in some places. They should go back to the drawing board and sit down and work it out. And so I saw the other day some group of KK guys were trying to stage a stand-up on the issue. But I understand they are part of the group. The KK Riders Association, the Motor Drivers Association, the Transport Owners Association, they are all part of this group that has been set up to run these buses. Government has leased the ownership to them. So if they are doing it wrong, we should not just say government. Government has called them in so that they can be useful partners in this process. Let us sit them down and ask them, what are you really doing? What is the efficacy of what you are doing? So now it's not only the Ministry of Transport, or SLRTC. It is a new group that comprises of everybody, including civil society groups. Now that government has been magnanimous enough to bring them on the table, let them use the table well.
Now, you mentioned public education, which was really, really extremely poor. We only saw notices on social media. I for one did not hear any PSA on radio.
I think that's completely nonsense. We as an institution had given them a proposal for public education. They disregarded it. They wanted it their own way, and they did it their own way. We are a government institution.
So is there an assumption that most of the commuters are people on social media? Is it why?
No, but we know the commuters actually. The people who go for those public channels, they are not on social media. They are in communities. So you have to take public education to them in their communities, in the languages that they understand. Yeah? So you don't just do a flyer and send it on social media and expect that people will understand. Even as educated as I am, and I'm in government as well, I didn't know. I was even peddling fake news to my wife and my family about what is the pricing of that, because I didn't know as well. So if they had taken the public approach, there is the national broadcaster, SIBC. It doesn't have to be NACSID. The Ministry of Information and Civic Education are doing very well. They have reduced their public education to the common language Creole. So we could have taken advantage of that. you know, for the public good, so that there will be no misunderstanding.
Can it be rectified? Is it too late? Do they still
No,
have
it's not too late.
enough window to be able to do that?
It's not too late. They have to come home.
Okay.
They have to come home and look at where have we gone wrong. Let them be honest with themselves. We don't want no stonewalling. Oh yeah, Mr. Tutange went on TV and criticized us. Yes, it's my business to criticize people because that's my job, so that people can understand what is going on. You know, I'm also government, but government gives me a role to be a check on what is going on. And what has gone on so far as workforce bosses are concerned is not good. It's not making government look good even.
Not making government look good. Well, that's the highlight for this week from the guests. Gentlemen, this is how we're going to roll out for this evening. Now, we're going to talk about the constitutional review. There have been several attempts to have it reviewed. There have been, you know, white papers done and presented. Most of it have not been approved. Now, let's start off by talking about where we are now as far as that process is concerned. Khalil, I'll start off with you. You have 2 minutes to make a position on that, and then I'll go over to lawyer Rashid. Now, but whilst Khalil is making his submission, Rashid, I'll kindly ask that you hold your peace so that he goes through making his submission. And then
I'm not going to spar with him. I'm just going to state what is. Now, the issue is constitutional review has been on for the longest time in this country. It started with President Kaba and the Tucker Constitutional Review Commission, and they brought some advisory to government under former President Nkrumah. He disregarded it. Nothing came to light on that. Then later on, he set up an elaborate one that many civil society groups, people were involved with it, with the venerable Justice Khan. They did a quite pretty job. All of us who were involved in the media, following what they were doing, they did a very pretty job. They looked at all of the lacuna in our constitution, all of the rough edges, and then in a public way, they came to it and they made a representation to government. And as Nkrumah's government under the APC, they disregarded that as well. Now, in Bio's inning, they cherry-picked on some of the issues that they wanted to take on, and they tried to implement those. There were others that they left out, which in the views of several of us, they were supposed to have a strong head on. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Now, after the 2023 elections, the opposition cried foul about a number of things, and they thought they could have done. But these were not in the constitution. For instance, they were asking the electoral laws of even in 2012, the electoral laws of 2022. They wanted, they should publish, the ECSS should publish the names of people who voted at something like that. A really elaborate thing. They wanted polling station by polling station. That was not provided for in our constitution. So ECS couldn't do it. They didn't do it. So they were up in arms on that, and it's carried on for some time with their protest about the outcome of that election. No, fine. Together with our international partners, they have decided now that they should do a review of the electoral laws. I'm not sure it's the constitution proper that they are looking at. The lawyer here can educate us. But the electoral laws, they want to look at that, and which is a fine thing. To review if there's a lacuna in your laws that will create tension like the way it did when Parliament, some sector of the Parliament refused to come in. If that would help the situation, why not? The country should grow. If there are things that you find out is not good for the health of your democracy, you can look at them. That what is really disappointing in all of this is that it's two political parties, one in government, one out of government. They are the ones that are sitting. Even when some institutions as vital as mine, who's what can I say, the interlocutor between government and the people, they now say, no, we don't want NACSID or no other human rights commission. We only want the two political parties, the one that is in government, that's the one that is out of government. I think that is wrong. We should have a seat at the table so that we can advise, we can profile advice. We can come to the people, they can tell us what they actually want to see happen to them. But for them to just go between the two of them and decide this is what we want to do, and so that it will make it easier to replace you, or it will make it easier for you to stay in place, I think that is wrong.
Who is attempting to exclude?
You heard it in public media when the opposition said they don't want any third party. They only want international community. Yeah, the international community, they want the international community. But their context.
But why are they insisting on not having any third party for
civil society? We are not even top. We are the bigger party, because between the two political parties, they don't even count for 1 million of the population of this country. Registered party members of this country, they don't count for 1 million. So that's less than 20% of the people of Sierra Leone. But the people of Sierra Leone rely on civil society. The people of Sierra Leone rely on institutions like mine or the Human Rights Commission to look at those issues that they care about, so that we can articulate them publicly, like I'm doing today. But the All People's Congress, the main opposition party, denied us the presence on the table. They don't want us to be on the table because they want it between them and the government and the international community, whose perspectives and of the context of where all of these things are happening is very minimal.
Could there be an agenda? Could there be an agenda that they wish to pursue in that direction?
I wouldn't know. But this week, I understand that they are rolling out the TOR, the terms of reference of this review committee. We are looking forward to that, and we want to look at what's in there, whether it reflects the best interests of the people. If it doesn't, we will speak about it, and the people will know. So that's what we are talking about. Yes, it's a very important thing for us as a nation to look at some of the hurdles that we have in terms of the free flow of our democracy. But to say that political parties, entrenched political parties, can determine who will sit at the table to make those negotiations, I think is utterly wrong.
All right, let me go back to you, Lawyer Rashid Doumbouya. Let's talk about where we are at the moment. Mr. Tutangi mentioned that he is not quite sure whether it's the whole, holistic review that's happening. It might perhaps just zoom in on the electoral laws, as he mentioned. Commissioner Rashid.
Yes, so I'm happy to talk about this. But let me just zero a little about the Khalid Tutangi's admission and frankness in terms of the Waka Fine issue. And definitely we will be reaching out to the Ministry of Transport with an opinion regarding this matter in the not too distant future. But then let me be clear that when we talk about constitutional review or repeal, as the case may be, it's not something that we should be, how can I call it, secret about. If you are trying to touch on the gun norm, remember the Constitution is the gun norm. It's the highest law of the land. You have to, it's the law that protects our rights. There's no other law that really encompasses all our rights like the Constitution. So it's the people's law, and if you want to touch that law, you have to let the people know and involve the people. That's the right approach in doing same. Progressive countries that have reviewed constitutions have taken that path, and their constitutions have even, stood test of time. Because, for example, South Africa, since 1996, when they had their progressive constitution, up to date, the constitution is still progressive, and many people are really happy about it. But then, the issue of constitutional development could be traced as far back as 1924. When we had the discussion to have our constitution, development history. So it's not a new thing. Constitutional repeal and amendments have taken place since 1924. We even had later the 1951 Constitution. We had the 1961 Independence Constitution. We had the 71 Republican Constitution. And then we had the 78 Constitution. And now we are dealing with the 1991 multi-party democratic constitution. So we have evolved. With time, Sierra Leone has seen a lot of phases in terms of constitutional changes and repeals. But then the 1991 Constitution seems to really have outlived its usefulness. And we are all concerned why the delay by successive governments in at least trying to give us a new constitution.
Contention? I mean, for some of our audience who might be watching
Yes.
or hearing about the review for the first time, it's been long in the works, as we mentioned. You have mentioned already several other reviews that are being done. But what are the major issues or contentious issues contained herein that needs to be looked at?
Yes.
Within this constitution.
So, and that's really the approach that is a little bit uncomfortable for some of us, because we believe already there is a proposed draft. So really, government should not even be wasting time now. We have two. We have the Peter Tucker's draft, and we have the Justice Cowan's draft. They are all late people now, but we are grateful for the work they did. All right, so under Treason and under Anesbai Kuroma, SDP and APC, works have been done already that we are very comprehensive in their outlook and involving. All right, so that could be the baseline. All right, I'm not sure much could be done per se again. That is new. All right, we have exhausted the review. It's there. The document is there. So it's about just trying to now progressively realize it, and it's a bold step. And I've argued severally in many forums that any government that will deliver on this, these are the things that will make people change their hearts and minds and stay you in power and your party. I don't know, the governments don't understand the issues that really are in the heart of society. This constitution, any government that will give us a new constitution, that government will reward them.
Have you seen the reviewed copy? Have you seen
so that's why I said in my earlier comment that we don't need to be secret about it. So we came to learn about a work that is currently being done when Carl invited us to some launching of a small draft and a proposed draft that government is looking at. Of rejections. So we were also surprised about that. So wow, so something is being done quietly, and we don't even know about it.
So is it really the constitution in totality, or the?
Yeah, so it's like some recommendations that we are put forward, and perhaps the position of government in terms of rejections or acceptance to those recommendations. It's a booklet form that is supplied us. So we are concerned because we believe it should be an open process. Because already, like I said, we have a baseline. All right, we can start from there and then perhaps put new things that we believe are evolving and are emerging, so that at the very least we have a progressive constitution. If we can change the constitution, I'm telling you, Sierra Leone will be in a new phase. We need, in my view, we need an entire repeal. We want a new constitution. If we go back to amendments, we will still have the purpose and spirit of this old constitution, which we now know is troublesome. And it's very, very inconsistent with the realities of our democratic society and aspirations. So, no doubt, it's a beginning.
Why are you suggesting a complete repeal, Lawyer Rashid?
Yeah, because there are many things we have now seen, and the Cowan, draft revealed clearly to us that in fact there were many in wordings, in ambiguity. All right, so don't get me wrong. It's not like a bad constitution, extra bad constitution. It's just that there are challenges in terms of words and their interpretations. A constitution must be clear. We don't want the gonum to be difficult interpretation and create, ambiguities, such that governments and even the courts are at loggerheads in terms of interpreting them. So let's have a document that is clear.
Would there ever be a time when government and the courts would not be at loggerhead, really, when it comes to interpreting legal instruments? I mean, as it with the constitution of Sierra Leone.
As long as the word "shall" is in it.
Well, it's not so much about "shall," and the question remains: a constitution should be so simple. You've seen them making constitution. They are making constitution. You can even put it in your pocket. You've seen the South African constitution. You can carry them in your pockets. It's a very small, tiny piece. So they are in simple, plain language. However, the courts have a duty to interpret the constitution, but the ordinary man should be able to also look at it's a document for the people. But if it's so complex and it's so ambiguous, it could even be an eyesore. Many Christians don't even want to go to the constitution because it's so bulky and so confusing. So we have to also watch that. If we are doing a new constitution, we have to make sure it's reader friendly. People should be able to go to the constitution all the time and enjoy reading it. All right, that's how it is in the American Constitution. It's so awesome. But then if we want to put everything inside and make it so voluminous, I'm telling you, many people will not, even elites in our country today, many don't know the provisions.
Isn't that a way to keep citizens from accessing that document, reading it, because I mean language content in it, I mean, would make you want to grab a dictionary to you know, get meanings and context before reading the Constitution.
Some condescending thing they say about us, they say if you want to hide something from a child, just put it in a book, because they say we don't have the culture of reading. Possibly true, but again, back to the issue that we were discussing. You asked my friend here a very pertinent constitution. Is it the whole of the constitution that is about to be looked at, or is it a review of the electoral laws that we're not clear about? I'm personally not clear about that, because all of the discussion I've had is about the electoral laws.
But again, why is it being done in bits when it can actually be done? I mean, as with all the reviews done on it.
I know. I mean, the president has been very magnanimous in that area, by even saying that yes, we have to get this dialogue, we have to look at this. He has opened these doors. But again, there are parties to this. We have the opposition that is the party. What are they actually seeking? What clarification are they actually seeking? What questions are they asking of our constitution? We're not clear on that as of yet. You know, and what is it that, how far is the government willing to go? What are they willing to accept in all of this probing that is going to go on? We are not even clear about that. But again, we give them the benefit of the doubt. They say they are coming to us this week with a TOR, so that we will now know what they are about. But again, by way of trying to influence that TOR, what we are saying is there has to be...
Who is coming out with the TOR, terms of reference?
The co-chairs,
the tripartite committee.
The tripartite committee, yes. The co-chairs, the government chair,
but their responsibility would not be around the entire constitution. It would be only around the electoral laws.
But we don't know that yet. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was asking my colleague here.
But based on the communique signed, Rashid, wasn't that what was mentioned, that a committee would be set up to look at, you know,
the electoral law?
It's basically the electoral landscape. It's not necessarily the review of the constitution.
Yeah, so basically it's the electoral laws that we're looking at. So that's what that committee is dedicated to. Now, do we want it to be broad enough to include other issues about rights, about citizenship, about a number of other issues that came up especially in the Edmund Cowan recommendations that went to government. Government accepted a lot of these things, but again, progressive minds, we are looking at other things that we thought the government could have included. Government did not. So if government has now opened a window of opportunity for us to have a second look at those things, perhaps these are issues other than always arguing about APC, SFPP. These are issues of grand interest to the whole nation that we should begin to talk about as people in the public space. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't think it is the right thing to do, even by international partners, to only encourage two political parties, one in government and one out of government, to go out there and discuss the future of our democracy all by themselves. I think that is wrong.
Now, this might be, you know, a rather simplistic question, but it's worth asking. What is stopping any of our leaders, past and present, or what stopped past, and what is stopping our present leader from taking a decision and saying, listen, let's get the constitution reviewed holistically, let's have it go through the processes, and I'll give my assent to it. Rashid, and then...
Yes, so I believe there is a politics around constitutional amendments and reviews. All right, and it's not akin to even just our nation. That's why South Africa will forever be grateful for Mandela. So it's to have a new constitution in a nation, it will require a lot of leadership, political will. All right, so Mandela displayed that, and when they had 1996, constitution, they saw a path. In fact, the constitution it's so unique that they have a preamble. And I remember I took some elements of that preamble when I gave my paper to the Justice Cowan committee, that our constitution, the new one, must have a preamble. When you look at the South African constitution, the preamble clearly tells the history. So it's saying we, the people of South Africa, having gone through the ugly past of apartheid, have resolved to now have a new constitution, a new South Africa. So when even the judges will interpret the constitution, they will now understand from the preamble where the country had been and where it is aspiring to be. So that's why when the Constitutional Court of South Africa interpret the Constitution, they will always refer the preamble that the people of South Africa came together, having gone through the pains and agonies of apartheid. They have now settled that this will never happen again in their nation, and they are planning a constitution to change the ugly past and give them a better life. So the preamble is okay, sets the stage for interpretation. So a judge will never interpret constitution and now go back to the past, the ugly past, all right, and then start legitimizing it again. So even the preamble creates some spiritual, injection into the whole document. That is lacking in our Nigerian constitution, and this is scary. A constitution must have, even the U.S. constitution, it's there. We the people of America, we resort. You will see the wordings upon the founding fathers as to how they got to the document. So when the court sits on it, they will always mention the founding fathers, that this was the idea of the founding fathers as they drafted this law to keep this country together. No racism and the like. All right, everybody should live in this one pot nation. So that is the spirit. And today we're seeing many jurisprudence coming from that flow. They mentioned the founding fathers, that this was not what our founding fathers envisaged. That's how we do constitution. We have to get to a place where people will now own it, and we swore on it that this forever will be our guiding principle. And we don't want a constitution where a country where will be divided anymore. So the issue of tribe, regionalism is coming up, politics. So how do we now factor a constitution that holds the balance, south and east, north and west? We need a constitution that will dissipate that tension, all right, and have clear cause that no government should come in and float policies that engenders the divide, all right. It will be an abrogation of the constitution, and the court must hit hard on such government. But we need a progressive constitution. So I think the willingness, and we have seen this from both past and present government, we have not seen the willingness as such to have a new constitution. I mean, we are making attempts to have piecemeal, amendments, but that is not what we really need. Remember, we had 24, we had 51, we had 61, we had 71, we had 78 and 1991. Why can't we have a new constitution?
And it's been 33 years.
Quite a long time from now. So I don't understand what is happening, but this is a concern, because we have to set the trajectory and the stage for a transformed nation. All right. Next one question is really, it's outlived its usefulness. It's been a long time. We have a whole repeal, and we are calling for this to happen. And if this president gives us that, I'm telling you, it will really put him in a very good light in terms of history and even in our constitutional jurisprudence down the line.
I mean, from indications, there's a possibility he might give, having abolished the death penalty and repealed the 1965 Public Order Act as well, Kalilu and lawyer Rashid. I mean, so that's why I asked, what is stopping our president and the government at the moment from having that review done and taking it through the respective...
Look at what they call themselves. It's a tripartite committee for electoral systems and management bodies review. That's narrow. That's how narrow this is. And so basically, it's about who gets power, or how do they get there, how somebody ensures that nobody is cheated out of power as they claim as politicians. But that's not what this country is looking at. That's not what we actually need. Unfortunately, even when the U.S. representative to the UN came, she dished out money, $1.5 million to this process, which is a tripartite electoral.
But it seems that it has the loudest, most amplified noise around it, Khalil.
Because
therefore it got all the attraction.
That's what it is normally. Because the bigger your platform, the louder you get. But that's what really happened. That money was gained traction. People say, "Oh, she came and she did this and all of that." But is that what is the message of this country? Is that what really our problem is? Because one political party cried foul after the last election, and everybody hyped it. And I even see some congressmen, senators, even wrote memos without context. they don't really understand the real deal on the ground. They were writing frivolous statements about the state of the country and all of that. And they hyped it so much, we nearly missed out on going into a very nasty war on our own ground because of all of these misunderstandings. But I agree, I give credit to the president for agreeing that we should have this tripartite discussion. But what I'm only saying is that not the government and the opposition party are enough to look at this issue. They are not enough all by themselves to look at this issue because they don't form a majority of who have a vested interest in the way our electoral system works. Because, I mean, as I always said, even when we sat on the steering committee for the elections, I told my international partners, elections is about the people of Sierra Leone. They are the ones who have a mandate that they want to give one of the contesting political parties. But now, if you say you are going to look at what the political parties think and what is their interest in how they can win elections without regarding what the people generally think about the whole thing, then we are missing everything. We are missing everything. And so I will have reason to think that our international partners should be more consultative across the board with the civil society groups, with other media groups.
But how do you expect? For one, I'm very concerned about how attenuated in terms of the voice and the noise that that civil society. The civil society space used to have in the past. These are issues they could have been trumpeting. They could have been on the mountains, in the valleys, in the oceans, making noise about it to say that this cannot happen without having CSO participation in a process like this.
I'm surprised that I'm the one who's raising this when I'm sitting here. With
so what's happening to the space? What's happening to them?
The space has been corroded by I'm very sorry to say, because people now begin to think that the civil society groups who should have a fair knowledge of these issues, who understand the context, who should stand right in the middle, are finding linkages in places. So they are not worried as long as some people feel advantaged that they are going to be sitting at the table. The civil society is ceding that space to them to sit there and discuss things in their own interest, and we forget about the mass of everybody else. But I think that is wrong. I really think that is wrong. I believe that if it comes to a vote, they who are in the committee can vote. But when it comes to ideas, these people don't have monopoly of the ideas of this country. For goodness sake, they don't. It's not that the people who are in those committees, 7 from SLPP or government of Sierra Leone and 7 from APC, they are not necessarily the brightest people in this country. They are not necessarily people who know better than all of us what is happening in this country. So they should now be willing to hear other ideas. Then they can munch it among themselves and say, okay, well, so this is what came out. Okay, we will now take this, we will not take that. Let's vote on this, let's vote on that. We will look at them, they will have their own votes. But we should have a say in that discussion because there is so much we have to add to it. There's so much we have to add to it because there has been a plain level of misinformation from the beginning. People were saying that ECSL cheated because they didn't post the polling station by polling station numbers. But we all know that when the votes are counted at polling stations, the results are given to polling agents of all the parties in those polling stations. So if that is an issue that you want to bring into the electoral laws, let us be there and look at it plainly. It should not be just an APC-SLPP issue. That's disingenuous.
Rashid, it should not just be an APC SLPP. That's why but hold on, I'll come right back to you. We need to go for a quick break, but I'll come back right to you, Rashid. Make note of that. In case you're just joining us, you're watching us wherever you're watching us from. This is AYV on Sunday. Drop us your comments. Use the hashtag if you're on social media, AYV on Sunday. So type out the hash key and then AYV on Sunday, right as one word. So it would gain traction and have a community on social media. Now, if you're also watching us from across the globe and would love to drop us a comment, but you are not on Facebook, you could do on WhatsApp. +232-8857-5742 is the number. Do us a favor, indicate your name and where you are sending us your comment from, and would love to read through them. Most definitely, we have time for your comments on the show, and we'll get to that. Once we get to that, Salifu Channel Kamal would be with us in the studio to help us read through your comments. We will be coming right back after this quick break and be ready to drop your comments. And of course, the guests will continue to be with us in the studio. This is AYV on Sunday. We're going for this quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is AYV on Sunday. In case you're just joining us, wherever you're watching us from, online or in country, please drop us a comment if you can on Facebook. Use the hashtag AYV on Sunday. If you're dropping us a comment on WhatsApp, the number is +232-8857-5742. Send us a comment and mention your name and where exactly you're sending us the comment from. In the studio, I still have my guest, Kalilu Tutangi from NACID, who is a very vibrant voice and advocate of for the citizens. And also in the studio as well, we have Commissioner Rashid. Well, I like calling him Commissioner Rashid instead of Lawyer Rashid, but he's with us as well in the studio. He is founding member and owner of an organization called Legal Link. Now let's get back to business, Rashid. Kalilu was saying that this shouldn't be an APC-SLPP business as far as the review is concerned, but we can only preempt what the terms of reference would be, because it has not been released, and it will be released only then would we be able to zoom in on it and be able to bring thorough analysis as to what their roles and responsibilities would be. Yes,
so and I agree with him largely, because constitutional reviews really should be, engendered by civil society. In many of the progressive countries that have reviewed their constitutions, Africa, Kenya reviewed has in 2010. Okay, it was a civil society-led agitation that gave rise to the review. So it's ironical that it's not happening in my nation. CSOs are a little bit not like much interest is not seen around these issues. A few CSOs are really talking about it, and it should concern everyone.
But CSOs were interested in the past.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So I'm just saying, I don't know where is the cavalier attitude, where is it coming from? I don't understand. There are many things that are happening that we're not talking about, and we should be interested in this one in particular, because it has to do with our people, our lives. All right, so it's not about APC or SLP. It's a national document. It's something that must interest us. We must demand for openness in the review and involvement by experts, by human rights, lawyers, people with constitutional expertise. Because it's not a document that you can just get 1 or 2 people on the table and then you do. You have to involve experts. There are constitutional law experts who studied constitutionalism. They can give their informed view. You have to involve also interest groups. For example, the women, the disabled. They must all have a voice. They must push in. That's what happened in the Justice Kawan Commission. That's why I'm saying that draft is unique, because in a way the whole country was involved in getting that document together. So that should be a baseline.
But why has it not been considered? Previous former president, I mean,
the very government that did the work abandoned it. All right. So surprisingly, and now we have a new government who's also not really taking that work. With the
although they took some pass.
It's that's what I'm saying. It's not supposed to be a piecemeal approach.
Why take bits and
parts?
It's
not a piecemeal approach. If we're going to agree
when taxpayers' money was
repeal.
spent on getting this committee, sit and meet every time, why take bits and parts?
That was really an important committee. That's why all of these things need a public voice. I've asked questions about that. There are a number of other areas. For instance, in that review constitution, it was very progressive, like Rashid said, but a committed government to doing things, for instance, that the government didn't consider that they had the wherewithal to do. And these are very understandable things. You can't commit government to do something in the constitutional review process that government cannot do. This is understandable, but these are things that have to be explained to the people in the public, so that people can understand. No, we are not just deciding we are not using this. yeah, we cannot use it because if it says the rights of citizens to ABCD, it requires government to put tangibles in place for these things to happen, and government cannot, by our financial standing, meet them. So therefore, government is going to sidestep these ones. But there are other things that the government needed to include that I'm not sure they did. But on the whole, the mere fact that the current government considered that document, which was a very progressive document that Justice Kawan left with us as a nation, considered elements of it. They took some, they didn't take some. It was now hell-bent on us as citizens groups to continue advocacy on some of those progressive elements that we thought we should have been included in that document that were not at the time. Unfortunately, we dropped the ball on that. All of us as citizens have dropped the ball on that. But if it's coming up again, it's a good thing to discuss. But what I want us to understand, what I want our viewers to understand, is that this so-called tripartite agreement is not about the Constitution. Narrowly, they want to talk about electoral laws and electoral bodies review. That's what they want to talk about. So it's all about election. They are talking in the realm of politics, and they want to talk in the realm of politics with only the two political parties behind closed doors and their Western or international colleagues in that room, and they're going to shut the door on all of us as citizens groups that are supposed to speak on behalf of the people. I think that is wrong. It is very wrong. We will wait to hear what they have in their TOR, and we will pick it up from there and tell them, no, you cannot just be in a room by yourself and decide what happens to our votes as citizens. We should be on that table and guide you on what is. Yes, we don't want to have any future stand-ups because of elections. So if there are lacunas in the electoral law that is making this thing happen, we want to remove that as well. We are all on board with that, but we are not going to leave it to them.
So what's your major concern now? Is it to have the entire view of the Constitution done, or to have more participation in the ethos that was given to this committee, the tripartite committee set up?
It's not for me to say. The whole country, through two governments, have decided that there are issues that need to be reviewed in our constitution. President Kaba started with the Constitutional Review Committee led by the erudite Peter Tucker. They brought that document, and by that time, President Kaba had left office. And President Kumar saw that. They said, no, I'm going to set up my own committee with the venerable Justice Kawan. He did a good job that included all of us. All of us had, we went to that hearing, we contributed ideas to it. We thought the ideas that came out of it were good. But unfortunately, President Kumar rejected those, even though he was the one who had set up that committee. Now, the advent of President Bio, he has looked at it. He has decided that some of those things he's going to take on board. Some others he left out. Now, what is this present review about? Is it about the electoral laws and the electoral bodies review, or it's about the Constitution? We don't know that yet. We're going to find out when they roll out their TOR sometime in the week. And we are sure that if it's about the review of the Constitution, of the electoral law, this is not something that should be done behind closed doors between two political parties. It should involve the people's representatives. Yes, we are government, but we speak on behalf of the people of Sierra Leone, and we educate them on what is coming, what the government is doing on their behalf. That's what we want to see happen.
Rashid, it shouldn't be, again, Khalil is still going back to, it shouldn't be, a thing between the, both parties, APC and SLPP, not just them having to sit and review the entire process. It has to be inclusive. But again, I mentioned we can only preempt what their terms of reference would be. It might include having them to broaden whatever committee that will be set up to have this review done. It might also include having enough public engagement so that whatever review is going to be, or whatever clause that will be inputted, would be fully well known by the general populace before it is now adopted, having passed being sent to Parliament as a bill before it could now be enacted. Rashid.
Yes, so it's clear. I'm sure their mandates ought to be looking at systemic reviews pertaining to the electoral laws. But then, assuming without considering that they may want to look at the Constitution, it's not a constitutional, review process. All right. It's possible they might look at some clauses or sections that relate to elections, so that at the very least, if they are making a commission in any reform on the legislation, the Public Election Act, it may be in tandem with the ones in the Constitution. That is limiting. That is not a constitutional review, and that's not what I'm sure we're talking about today. A constitutional review, like he rightly said, will encompass many players, all right, including the political players themselves. But it's not one that will be born from, the background in which these two parties are now, trying to pull horns together and have a solution. That's not how we get to a constitutional review. I'm not sure that should even be the spirit, all right? So it should be a national discussion. We all sit down and raise the issue. We look at it objectively. It's a conversation we are having. What are the things that we want to see in our constitution that are progressive? We have now many blueprints across the world. We have the Kenyan constitution, progressive. We have the South African constitution, very progressive. The Malawi constitution. These countries have moved on, and you can see the impact. All right. Today, many things have changed since 2010 in Kenya. All right, and their constitution, their Supreme Court is empowered. You see, it's in the first in Africa also that even overturned an entire election. You know why? Because the constitution that was repealed empowered the court to a point where they become independent and insulated from any political interference or control. That is what we should be talking about. For example, I will tell you also that when we had the whole discussion around the Justice Cowan led constitutional review, I remember I submitted about 5 papers. And one of such was on the issue of having socio-economic rights guaranteed in our constitution. As I speak to you, there are no guarantees for socio-economic rights in our constitution. For example, the right to food, the right to health, the right to education. So even now as I speak, the whole agenda of education, as good as it is, it sits on a policy-based approach, not on a right-based approach entrenched in our constitution. Our constitution does not guarantee the right to education. It's risky. So any government can come and say, you know what, and I abandon this project. It's not my liking. I have my priorities. But when we make that an entrenched provision in the constitution, you will not abandon it. It becomes a constitutional entrenched right, and you have to ensure that you float policies that will, guarantee this right in this country. So, for example, the right to housing. People are still having challenges in housing, and we have a lot, that we can do to have this ameliorated. The other day I was asking the question. We have stone, we have clay, we have sand in our nation. We have the military. We have the manpower. We can't ensure, say 10,000 houses, in every district in 6 months for our people. Clay bricks. They can occupy and be paying on a monthly basis in a cost recovery way. These are things that can be achieved. It's not a big deal. But a constitutional provision.
But actually, these are projects that were done in the past. Low-cost housing in Kisii, for instance, they were built. You mentioning brick and that they were built with brick.
But
you had the hill station apartments. They were rented out as well, and people were refused to pay the yearly rent. So why would you want to place a burden like that on government?
So John, this abracadabra approach is what is disturbing our country. You don't come to doing these things from a piecemeal kind of testers. No. It should be led from a right-based. That's why we missed it. It was a right-based approach. Government not feel okay, not build some small hostel for representing them. No. It should be something entrenched. So you have a baseline, something that if you don't do, we can come to the Supreme Court and have it enforced against you. All right? That's why it failed. Because it was a policy-based approach, not a right-based approach. But that's what we want now to happen.
Rashid, you would want to have government now place priorities on where their priorities are not supposed to be. So, for instance, now you were saying if it's now a rights-based approach, you could now take government to Supreme Court and have them, placed under pressure to say these projects have to be implemented. But if it's policy, it can be abandoned. So it's a route that's easy for
And maybe perhaps that's the reason why we're not even having the constitutional review up to now. So what I'm saying is, so the proposal I gave to the Cabinet Committee that we must have this as a right. I agree. The whole issue of having this burden, in quotes, all right, carried on their shoulders is perhaps could be an incentive for this constitutional review to happen. But then we have seen that it is really a myth. Because I'll tell you, John, when Ernest Bai Koroma, former president, rolled out the free health care, that's a socioeconomic right. At the very least for pregnant women under 5 and 50 mothers, the heavens did not come down. When President Bio said, I will target education, it's a socioeconomic right. At the very least, I will ensure it for primary, secondary school, basic education. Heavens did not come down. That's what we are saying. So you are afraid, but perhaps it's not really a scary thing that you cannot achieve. But let's not limit it by, just Professor, don't hang it on policy. Because somebody will come down the line that will not see the need to carry on with it. And the people will be the ones that will be affected. But if it's a right, any government that comes, we will have to move on with it. All right?
Khalil.
I looked at some of those recommendations. I was also very enthused by the Kawa recommendations. I think they are very progressive and utterly progressive in some cases. And he's talking about those rights, those commitments that government will make, and that people will sue government if government falls short of those. And those ones, some of them are grand as they will look, very interesting as they are. Government does not have the wherewithal to let them go, to carry them out. So I can understand if a government is leery of enacting such laws only for them to fall foul of those laws and to have a litany of court cases all over the place against the government because they didn't meet those. But there are very other progressive things that the government can do using policy, like the government did with the jewel bill and it did with the free education thing. There are quite some level of commitment that the government should get some credit for. Even when the government did in 2011, was it, when the government did the free healthcare for pregnant, it was key because it was targeted as a vulnerable group of people, marginalized group, because we had babies dying, mothers dying at childbirth, and it was very important that the government did that. So these are all understandable, but there are other critical things that are required in our constitution that we need to look at, other than just expanding those rights that we government cannot meet. Unfortunately, when the main opposition took umbrage with the outcome of the last election, their target was not on the review of those provisions within the law that would make people attain more rights and things. So they were targeted at only the narrow path of election, and they want to discuss the electoral laws and review the bodies.
Do you expect? I mean, they were the most recent political party in power, right? The review of this constitution was done by them. It got to the former president, and he says, "Listen, I'm not interested in this anymore." Why would you want them to now, come back and say, let's go back to that document? When you must expect them to take a narrow view.
Well, that is. They didn't just take it narrow. They took it so narrow that they want to even exclude parties that should be around the table. You understand? They want to exclude parties that should be around the table that will have a critical voice, that are non-partisan. Voices that should be around the table. We expect civil society groups, whatever their affiliation, whatever their friendship with other politicians, we expect them to be straightforward and speak to the issues that concern the general well-being of Sierra Leoneans. But now, one of the political parties, when the government included civil society and NACSID and others around the table, they say, no, we don't want them on the table. And for some reason, we do not know. So we are still looking forward to what they are going to bring up on Thursday or sometime around that, what they are going to say to us about what their TOR, what they are going to be looking at. If it's on the narrow ground of the electoral laws, we are also going to be looking at it. and some element of it is going to be passed in Parliament, but Parliament should understand that they are the representative of the people of Sierra Leone. So we are going to try as much as possible to understand and to be there to find out what this committee is doing and to educate our people on it so that they can talk to their parliamentarians to ensure that nothing that does not serve the best interests of this country is included in those reforms.
Now, as we head to I mean, the release of the theory of this committee, what do you think the role of civil society, Rashid, should be in terms of taking up these issues and advocating on behalf of citizens?
Yes, so it's a very good question, and I would definitely come to that. But let me just also maybe contend a little with my prof here regarding his position about government doesn't have a wherewithal. Because that is the argument that many governments have put forward in not guaranteeing socio-economic and rights in their constitution or in their nation. All right, so I disagree. Sierra Leone is a blessed nation. We have over 15 viable natural resources. We even have oil that has been discovered in our nation. We have cash crops that we can export and get revenue. I think the problem largely has to do with management of our resources, not the lack thereof. All right, and we are just 8 million people. So we cannot really make a case that we cannot guarantee this right. The right to food, right to health, right to basic housing. We cannot make the case anymore. Right to education, it's far gone. It's an untenable argument because we are rich. I went and did my first research in my master's thesis in Mauritius. They only have 2 viable resources that they depend on for revenue and all of these things. One is the beach. Mauritius has a nice beach, which we do have as well, plenty of them. Then they also have sugar cane, just 2. In that small island, almost everything is ensured. They have right to health, right to education, right to transport, right to affordable housing. All right, so it tells me clearly that it's about how we manage our resources. And the argument all the time that states put to say we don't have the means is untenable and we should not hold that to be reasonable any longer. Our nation deserves these rights. We can ensure affordable housing for our people. We can ensure free health care for our people. We can ensure free education for our people. It's not that it will not. When the 2 of them attempted it, it worked to some extent. And we were all happy. Under by Kuruma, the free health care initiative saved many lives. Under President Bio, the free education has helped many girls to access education at the very least at the primary and secondary level. The world did not end. Sierra Leone did not go berserk. It happened. So we are saying if we have the commitment and the will, let's avoid the resources. I mean the resources argument that we don't have resources. No, we have. We have 15 viable resources. We have diamond, gold, bauxite, rutile. They are here. Let's manage them well. Those funds, Botswana did the same now. Botswana, all the minerals, the deposits they have in the funds are now targeted to education. And it has created a boom in their educational drive in Botswana. So we can learn lessons. But the argument to say we don't have resources, it's untenable. In this 21st century, it's untenable. We cannot continue to say we don't have the resources. We do. But I mean, it's the management perhaps that's the problem.
Okay, you might have the raw, unprocessed.
Yeah,
you have them.
Even untapped.
Untapped. You might have them.
No.
But how do you?
They're not untapped. We have people.
Who's mining? What is it? Oil in this country.
Okay.
Anyway, don't worry.
No. Let me answer you. Let me answer you.
You will have time to respond, but we have to take views.
No, I need to let him know what is happening
there. Rashid, we have to take views and comments from listeners and viewers across the globe. And to help us with that is my producer, Salifu Cherno Kamara, to help go through what the comments are this evening. I've got huge comments as well from WhatsApp, but let's start off with Facebook. And then we'll get to WhatsApp.
Thank you so much, John Conte. It seems like Usman and Ronald, they seem to be following up with the conversation today. I think they are interested because they have been sending the most messages that are tailored to the conversation. So the first message I'll take is from Usman Prince Sulaiman Kavon. He say, if we are honest with ourselves, the country and the people we should disregard the archaic constitution and replace it. Usman again, due to our dishonesty, it is impossible to compile the constitution. We are deliberately leaving loopholes for the purpose of serving individuals, groups, or class. Ronald Bradford is saying, the Constitution has been used by both successive governments to suit their policies and kick it to the curb when it holds them to account. One example is a section in the Constitution that makes it quite clear that the executive office has no right of suspending or sacking the Auditor General, yet this current executive has done exactly that which is against the so-called Constitution. Basically, successive governments only use the Constitution to suit them and not to hold them to account, which makes all these efforts of reviewing a waste of time and resources. Abu Bakr Rashid, I wonder why Sierra Leoneans cannot write their constitution without any bias. Even the Justice Kawan had some flaws. I overheard a senior citizen complaining that the Justice Kawan constitution was trying to satisfy some people. Osman Prince Sulaiman Kavant, he said President Bio is willing for a constitutional review, replace and true reforms. Dauda Tarawali, our constitution is the #1 enemy to the development of the country. It has been abused, misused, and sometimes refused. Osman Prince, this is the country where a judge, police, or any other dignitary should order police officers to arrest an individual for no good reason. They are using their authorities unconstitutionally, but police also don't know the Constitution, so they carry out their orders. If any dignitary has a problem with a citizen, the court should and must be the only institution to honestly deal with the case. When you have court proceedings with any high caliber, they will pay for you bed in the CID. And Suleiman, you don't need to study constitutional law to input a thought or be part of the process. All we need is to be honest with each other and put it to rest once and for all. Prince, only when we reform the entire constitution that Sierra Leone could be free from certain individuals, groups, and classes. The next message is from Ronald. I appreciate the optimism of the panelists. However, we've seen how successive governments use the Constitution in their favor and not in the interest of the people. Even this 1991 Constitution was done in such a way that successive governments can toss it around like a golf ball and not for the benefit for the people or governments, but for selfish interest, which is happening as we speak. The executive office have too much powers that the Supreme Court or Parliament are weak in holding the executive to account. Suleiman, he says, Muhammad Suleiman Koroma, watching from Greece. Again, the constitution in Europe where some of us stay is the Bible of every citizen. And this is because it's simple and it's compulsory for every student to know. It's when some of us travel know that any country with good constitution also help reduce corruption. For example, when I am driving in Europe, if a police officer arrests me for overspeeding, I don't need to bribe him or her because I know what to pay, where to pay, and when to pay for the crime committed, which in turn brings income to the government. Osman, let us focus on laws rather than policies, because policies could be changed by other administrations to benefit their desires. Ronald, the people must have a say in the Constitution if it's being reviewed. Civil societies and all other stakeholders should be involved, especially when there are over 70% illiteracy in the country. These vulnerable groups must not be ignored, as they are the same ones these politicians brainwash during campaigns for votes. Mohammed Sulaiman Koroma, we know even if we have new constitution, successive governments will interpret it badly. But we are saying, let's change it for good of the common and ordinary people. It's simple. If the people don't know the law, they fear when they flout the law. And corrupt law enforcement agencies and officials will use it as corruption. Many people don't understand or know our laws. So that's the last message on Facebook that I will take. And back to you, John Conte, in the studio.
Thank you, Salih, for interesting comments. Now let's get to what our viewers are saying on WhatsApp. Okay, now, hi, Mr. Tutangi. This person is saying, I think the Waka Fine project is a wonderful move by the government to reduce transportation crisis. I think the only problem is the aspect of price. 10 leons is too much. That is what this person is saying. Let the transportation sector review and reduce the price. But on the aspect of diverting other transport to use other routes, I think it's the right move, because most of these other forms of transport are not good. And some are even very scary when you move about with them. Some pollute the streets with so much smoke, and some don't even have good brakes. Others can easily lose control and cause havoc. Also, some of them have very exposed iron seats, doors, etc. And some don't have complete glass on them. So I think it's a great move. The only bit is the price. Thank you. No name mentioned, but that's a comment. Let's build another constitution. Well, someone is saying review and have another constitution. This current constitution gives so much power to the government of the day. From Gabel, AYV on Sunday Sierra Leone needs a new constitution indeed. Our current laws are full of grey areas. Tom Abdullahi from Dwazak. Now, the 1991 party constitution gives enormous powers to the president, so there is no way he will want to give away those powers. They have to be taken away from them by force through the people and civil society. This person says, sadly, civil society have been largely compromised. That's from a texter. He says the last recommendations from this government were not much different from those of the APC, because His Excellency wants to continue to appoint everyone and controls institutions that way. Fode Mustafa from the UK. Fode from UK again says, what Khalil is saying about results being given to agents is not for the century. Why is there an electoral commission and being paid very handsomely? Are you suggesting that one has to do the job for them? All electoral commissions conduct elections and publish results. The NEC, up to Umfa Ali, published results gradually after elections, and it was Kone who deleted all polling station results from 2007 to 2018 after the fiasco of the elections result. He committed a serious crime against the nation and placed the website results results on the website under permanent construction. That is what this person is saying. The civil societies and press have largely failed the nation. Now, Fode again from the UK. I mean, he's sending a lot of messages, and most of them really, are in line with what we're discussing this evening. He says we want to progress as a nation, but want to continue doing things the old way. Electoral laws were reviewed in 2022, but still confirmed laws that can be interpreted by any man in any way. Now, how can Liberia have laws that are up to date and up to us? He's saying the Constitution, on the other hand, was tailored towards the party in power. Government has to take its hands off the review process, but sadly, civil societies in this country cannot be trusted because most of them have taken political sides. We are hoping for positive change, and we need peace in our country. Mr. Kalilu, you are one of those who had always advocated for peace. Why are you talking as if you don't want peace? Kemon and Iskagbo from Hastings. Final comment would be Molai from Regent is saying, I don't know why Kalilu is mixing up two different issues. He says the committee that is born out of the 2023 elections is different from the team the government put together to look at the constitutional review, and no political party is among that team, not even the APC party and members of that team, closely and solely appointed by the president. So please, Kalilu, stop misunderstanding two issues. Gentlemen, few comments. Kalilu, let me go straight to you.
I've gotten the beating. But anyway, I see one piece. Let Mr. Kemo know that I really do one piece for this country. What else can we be if we don't want peace for our country? And I am not sure. There was a group that the president set up that included the vice president, that the vice president is leading. They have their own job. It's not part of the tripartite. And the reference I was making was to this tripartite committee that is putting out its TOR this week. And I'm sure that by the sentiments that my compatriots have expressed, they see reason for us to have a review of our constitution. I'm not averse to that in any way. I'm just saying that if that is what has to happen, it has to be a public thing. The citizens of Sierra Leone have to have some public education around it, and they should contribute their quota to it. On the issue of the bosses, I agree with the person who said they are very fine thing. I think the government has its hands in the right place by even trying to ensure that we have people moved quickly to get to job in the mornings and to get home, because we traverse this length of the town. I live way at Angola town. I see the amount of suffering that people endure every day to get to the places they want to go, especially children going to school in the morning. I think the government is trying to do the right thing. I'm just concerned that the way it has been rolled out has not been effective. It has left a lot of questions unanswered. I want the people who are responsible for this, including the Keke Riders Association, who are trying now to demonstrate against the Waka Fine company, the transport owners, the transport motor drivers, these are all of the groups. I saw a long list.
Let me mention something. I wish I wasn't driving. I would have taken a picture of that bus driver. I didn't take the number as well of that bus driver who was driving and eating one of the Waka Fine buses.
So that's caused also the issue of discipline. And what are the modus operandi? Do they have supervisors who tell them what they can and cannot do on the buses? Do we even have regulations for even the users, the passengers in the buses, what they cannot? Because in some bus places I have been, it's a strict rule. You don't eat on board the bus. You don't drink on board the bus, because nobody wants to clear your litter after you. They ensure that. But again, there is some element of all of this that we are not taking our own responsibility as citizens. We are not taking that one seriously. I hope that the bus company get to do a lot more public education so that citizens can understand, much as Waka Fine is managing these buses actually belong to the people of Sierra Leone. The Iron project that had the 50 million grant from the World Bank was not for the government of Sierra Leone, but was for the people of Sierra Leone. And because the government has now decided that they want this thing to be run effectively so that it can have a multiplier effect, they are not going to give it to Sierra Leone Road Transport Buses Association as it used to be. They have put together a company that includes a lot of the players on the road. Those people whose kekes may not be running on Wikinsi Road, those people whose podapodas will not be running on Wikinsi Road, they are all part of this process. What I'm only saying is they have done a tidy job rolling out this process. They have to go back and look at it and ensure that the people of Sierra Leone get the best for their money's worth.
Get the best for their money's worth. Now, there are two important comments, Rashid, I would like to read quickly. We have Sierra Leoneans watching from all across the globe. One of them is in Liberia. He says, good evening, everybody on Sunday. I'm following the program live from Nimba County in Liberia. Reviewing the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone is a good thing to do. My concern as a citizen of Sierra Leone is that it should be done in the spirit of progressivity. Now, it should be reviewed for the good of the country, not individuals who assume political powers. One thing I would like to remind everyone is that the Constitution is supreme, not the individual who attains presidency. One thing our leaders in Sierra Leone have failed to realize over the years is the aspect of service in leadership. There is no sense of service in leadership. Until and unless people are schooled in this, you will always miss the point in governance in our country. That's from Daniel S.A.J. Libby in Tapita, Nimba County, Liberia. Hold on, one more. Suleiman Koma, watching from Athens, Greece, says, Mohammed Suleiman Kurma, watching from Athens, Greece, says, I think it's very important for our country to have a new constitution that will create justice and tranquility to the people of Sierra Leone. This is because the 1991 constitution is out of date. Our president, how can we have the president appointing the Speaker of Parliament, Inspector General of Police, Army Chief, Auditor General, and other important institutions of trust? This is why we have captured institutions like the institutions I have mentioned. Quick, important comments, Rashid.
Yes, yes. I think that's the spirit. We have to look at how we now know that when we give too much powers to our presidents, sometimes there are challenges. So how do we now have a new constitution that tries to not necessarily take the powers off from the president? Because again, you have to have a fine balance where you don't undermine state governance. If all we can aspire for is to, deprive him of powers to govern, then we might also undermine state governance. So there should be a balance where, merit is placed first as against the politics. Because usually the first choice of a president is politics. It's politically driven, most often, the first choice. So let's put merit processes above, and then we now send the person or the persons to him to now choose among. What we have done, we have compromised. We have placed merit above politics. So you can choose any one of them. We now know these ones that we've sent. We came through a meritorious process and they are emboldened. We now insulate their powers for removal and their powers also in terms of being recruited. So there should be a fine compromise, and that's what we are also, because again, you don't want to also take all the powers from him. So when he now sits there and says, hey, we do this, nobody listens to him.
No, but
all right? And then eventually
there's no Republican constitution that allows other people to appoint those critical positions for the president. Even in the American constitution, it's the president who appoints all of those people.
Yeah. But there are constitutions that are making a change. That's what I'm saying. For example, in South Africa, the Chief Justice, all right, there's a recruitment merit process first placed, and then when they now get to the best three after the recruitment so it's an open interview. People watch, and then the committee will tell how they got to the best three. All right, and those best three are now sent to the president to now choose anyone among them.
Should you think the president
should
you think the president would have a scale, right, and would have political consideration and merit? And you think the president would not want to tilt towards someone that has the same political views and values?
That's what we are saying.
Rather go for merit.
Yeah, so we are saying
because it has to do with trust as well.
Yes.
You don't. There are important institutions that you'd want someone who is leaning towards what you believe and what you'd want to do. They might go through the process and have, like you say, have the meritorious characteristic, but again, if you put that on a balance, the president might want to go with one that is politically leaning towards.
If he wants that, then let his man go through the scrutiny process. So whatever it is that this committee will send to him, we now believe that all of the three of them have the basic qualification to
Kalilu is smiling.
Office,
he doesn't believe that's
it's
something that would hold.
No, it's working.
That's something that would hold.
Just let me finish quickly.
Please.
All right.
Go ahead.
It's working. South Africa is an example. That's what I'm saying. It was a very Chief Justice that came through this route under Zuma that even recommended Zuma and then got him in trouble. So he's emboldened because he now knows the first choice was not the president. He went through a recruitment process before it was sent to him. So in a way, you embolden the individual when it comes to the throne to say, sir, it was not you that made the first choice.
So
I came here.
That's what I'll say. It's all good. It's a grand thing. It's very progressive for us to sit here and contemplate a Sierra Leone in which the Chief Justice is chosen by a group other than the presidency, and or the other important positions are chosen. But that's not what the Constitution says. And so, if that's what we want to see happen, let us take it to the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's why I was even saying, even in the issue of the review of the electoral laws, there are a number of things that the opposition party through at ECSL about the constitution, that our international partners, some people who do not have the faintest context of what is happening here in our country, they took it for hook, line and sinker, and they were singing about, oh, how inconsistent, how the election was this and that. No, it was not, because some of those things that they were saying has never been part of our laws in this country. So if we want that to happen, let us put it in the law, so that whoever comes, whether it's Mr. Connor or Mr. Green or Mr. White or Mr. Red, when they come, they see that that is what the law says. That's what they will do. But we don't have that. So on the question of whether the president should appoint, is that or is that, what does the law say? If that's what the law says, that's what's going to happen. So if we now say, okay, we don't want the president to appoint the Chief Justice anymore, or we don't want the president to appoint his Minister of Education, that teachers appoint the Minister of Education, that's fine, as long as that's what the law says. How do we get to it? Through a consultative process where not the only two big political parties sit behind closed doors with their international partners to decide. Let the people of Sierra Leone have an input in this, because we are the people who have our democracy.
Kalilu, this is something you've mentioned, I think, more than four
yeah, because I think it's very important. It's very important.
I can tell it's an issue that's very close to your heart.
Yeah,
You don't just want two political parties to have.
No, they should not make the decision. These are, we know as Sierra Leoneans, all through our independence, all through my life, only what I've heard about is APC and SFPP. So it's either one party in government, the other in opposition, or the other party in opposition, the other in government. But that does not give them the prerogative to decide how our electoral laws are made. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Well, we're slowly, sorry, you go ahead. But we're slowly coming. Hold on, Rashid. We're slowly coming to the end of the show. Now, listen. I want you to think about what the projections for the week will be. But make your point as Rashid. I'll come to Kalilu after that, and then back to you, Rashid.
Yes. So just to make my point clear before Kalilu came in. Now, we have to be clear. The committee that is looking at electoral review is different from the committee that was set up to review the constitution. All right, these are two different things. All right, there's a committee that has been set up by the president to review our constitution. Khalil, you have to find out about that committee.
I know, the one that's headed by the vice president.
Now, there is this tripartite committee is different from that committee.
That's the one I'm talking about.
All right. So now the second thing I want to emphasize here, John. The issue of a new constitution is an argument that we have exhausted. There's need for that, and we know the issues that we want to see reviewed. All right. For example, that's why in fact in many countries that had reviews and repeal of their constitution, they have it in the second term. When perhaps even the president is no longer, there is no thing anymore at stake for him. But what we are saying is we can have it now. It can happen if there is the will. We don't need piecemeal amendments. We need a complete overhaul, so that we have a brand new constitution taking on board on all these things we are now seeing and we have experienced as a nation since independence. Let's have it corrected. That's how countries transitioned. All right. Today we are praising South Africa, we are praising Kenya. They made a choice to first deal with the gun the supreme law, and then all other laws now that are not consistent with them, they get them out. All right. So that's how we do it. But now what we are doing in Sierra Leone is the reverse. We are doing a lot of reforms and in legislations, and we are leaving the gun still archaic. So all of those laws that we are transforming and are inconsistent with many of them, inconsistent with the constitution. For example, I'll give you an example. There is with the abolition of death penalty law that we have abolished, but the constitution is still saying you can kill. It's there, Article 16. 2 exceptions when you can take life, but we have abolished death penalty. So you start seeing the inconsistencies. All right, so let's deal with the gun norm. If we change the gun norm, then all our laws that are not consistent with it dies automatically. That's what the constitution says. All right, so let's fix it properly. We are just doing piecemeal and it's not helping. All right, that's my call. The approach needs to change, and it will require a bold leadership to do it. All right, you see the guys who did it in these two countries are very bold. Today their countries are proud of them. They left a legacy that is transforming the country, and all institutions are becoming bold because it's in their constitution that you cannot. And then let me mention one more thing, John. Just a minute. So somebody said in the text message that even if it's done, there will still be the abuse and misuse of it. Again, it happens, and it will happen if we miss a particular structure. The other day I was asking for a constitutional court. If you do a constitutional review or a repeal, you don't have a separate constitutional court to protect the constitution. That constitution will soon become something else again that history will remind us. So you have to have a new constitutional court. We have the Supreme Court. Somebody argue the Supreme Court can also have constitutional, but our Supreme Court is a little bit distracted. It has powers to look at constitutional matters and non-constitutional matters. And as it stands now, they are focusing more on the non-constitutional matters, the political matters, rather than the constitution itself. So that's why in my argument, I've said we need a new constitutional court that will singularly focus on protecting the constitution. So any government that dares tamper with our rights on the constitution, that court will be seen to come hard on that government at the very least. So we have to be bold in doing this. That's the call. And for somebody who said about the Waka fine and the policy to divert because of old vehicles and all these things, that is not really a justifiable case. In fact, where you divert them, and assuming you are now making the case that they are old, and it's more risky for them, because I learned that they are even climbing hills now, going down. If you're saying they're old, they don't divert them in places where they can even get much more tendency to even become an accident. So we have to look at it carefully. It's a nice initiative in terms of the rollout of the transport means, but to now divert when we have a tight, country that has don't have much roads.
That's opening a fresh conversation, Rashid, as to why, if they are not roadworthy, why are they on
the road in the first place?
Anyway, but let's round up, gentlemen. Now we've had the highlights, right, of the week. Let's talk about what the projections would be for this week, and we have just 2 minutes.
I still think the Waka fine thing is going to be front and center in the city at least, and I'm sure that the government have listening ears. They have looked at what has happened over the week. I expect the key players to sit around the table and look at what adjustments they need to make this team work well. We all agree that the government has its heart in the right place by introducing this Waka fine buses, because people are gravely in need of it. And I want to please ask that they extend to Waterloo. Even though they're in the habit of burning buses, but I know they will not burn these ones. But they are actually in need of public transportation from Waterloo. And another thing is, we are expecting the tripartite committee to roll out their TOR. We're going to have an open eye and an open mind and look at it and see how we can contribute to make it better and work for the people.
All right, many thanks. Khalil Tutangi from NASID is the chairman. He's being very strong and uncompromising tonight on all the issues around the citizens. Rashid, as we end.
Yes, I also agree with him. I think the Waka fine issues will still remain topical this coming week, and I'm sure we're now experiencing the challenges, and some of us are also going to become very bold and very open on this in terms of the challenges, and perhaps even write for a few things to be done in terms of the adjustment. Because remember, I said it has also a bearing on right to movement, and we have to be very careful as a nation, because we're a democratic nation. You don't force people to take a route when it's not an emergency situation. There's a situation that can call for that. All right, we are not in that situation, and the president has not declared that situation as yet. So the directives must have to be tailored in line with the democratic values of people and freedoms. So yes, it may be a nice idea to have these buses, but to force people to go to routes when the country has less roads, and then there are challenges also around the roads, all of these things will also create inconvenience for the common man. So we are looking at this issue. Then of course the issue of the tripartite committee. We hope that the progress will move to another phase, so that at the very least we have a closure on this issue. It's holding the country to a standstill to some extent. People are not, people are apprehensive. People are saying their own things. So I'm sure if the committee takes us, to a place where we now see them doing practical things, we'll now know exactly that indeed they are making progress. So lastly, the government needs to do a constitutional repeal. Our next question is moribund. We have to repeal it and replace it so that we can have a progressive nation going forward. And I'm happy for the invitation. I'm grateful for being here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much to Commissioner Rashid, well, lawyer Rashid Dumbuya, and Commissioner, well, if that's how the title you go by from NACID, Kalilu Tutangi, for your contribution and comments this evening on AYV on Sunday. We'll be back again next Sunday for another edition. This show will be, you would have a repeat broadcast on Thursday at 10 p.m. But at 9 p.m., AYV News will be coming up. Stay tuned, stay glued, don't go away. Many thanks to our viewers from across the globe for sharing their thoughts as well. I'll be with you again next Sunday. My name is John Conte. Have a great week. Bye-bye.